honored to be here today. I have not Australian in my accent, I have Southern English. So if you don't understand, I apologize. It's not the Michigan version, but Asher understands me, having spent some time in South Carolina. And we're just north of the border, so it's not too big. What I want to do today, and I feel like this is a very wonderful honor that I have been given, is Dorvette asked me to talk to you a little bit about the mission of this organization. So that's where I want to start. I represent one of the people, I am one of the people who are on the International Advisory Board. And Dorette and her colleagues, when they were looking to try to bring people together, they were looking for folks who are interested in children, who are interested in children's welfare, who are doing research in these particular areas. And I'm sure this board will grow as the research in this institution continues to increase. But these are folks that are known to many of you by their writings, by their research, and they are people that care about the mission of this organization. Now, the mission of this organization is really interesting because we know that children in need, they are worldwide, they are everywhere, they're not just here in Israel. And we know that culture makes a huge difference in that situation that those children find themselves in. We do think, though, and that's part of the mission of this institute, we think that if you have a deep understanding of the well-being of these children, what it is that helps them to progress, to grow, to learn, to be contributing members of their culture, their society, this has to come from a multidisciplinary perspective. These children need to learn to function well in their context. So according to this view, we need to look at how children are treated. We need to learn to see what they are learning. We need to respect and to think about in a sensible way what that eco-cultural, socio-cultural context happens to be. And we know that politics plays, unfortunately, a very important role too. The conceptual framework that's being used for this particular institute is very interesting because it's unique. And I'm saying it's unique because if you look at many of the child welfare organizations, and I have been involved with some of them, and I'm sure some of you have, like Save the Children, they're very, very successful. But the unique part of what this institute is going to do is it's going to look at research that's context informed. The important point there is one size does not fit all. You're not going to be treating children in need the same way depending on where they are. So this is very, very important and very unique when you look at the kinds of organizations out there. So what does context informed mean? It's a term that the NIBIT group has come up with, and it's a little bit different from some of the ones that you might know of already. It's broader than cultural awareness. It doesn't simply mean that you know what's going on in a culture. It means that you have to understand it at a deeper level. You have to intervene effectively in children's lives by looking at what's surrounding them, what kind of life they have, what's the world that they're encountering. You have to look not only at the things that we as psychologists look at, which are the family and the peers and the school setting, but you have to look at the larger context. You have to look at the socio-political structure. You have to look at the historical background. You have to look at the economic situation. You have to look at the cultural expectations, the mores, what you should and shouldn't do, proper, improper behavior, those sorts of things in that situation. And then we all know, and I know this from my own research, there are expectations that differ by gender, by ethnicity, etc. So we have to look at all of these things together to understand what these children are encountering as they are growing and learning. Without understanding these critical features about a child's context, it doesn't matter what kind of intervention we try. It's not going to be as successful as you'd like it to be because it has to fit where the child is. Context-informed growth, another new term that is being introduced by the NIBIT group, this replaces cultural competence. because this new definition implies that you're becoming sensitized to the context. It's not just knowing there's a different context, but understanding it, being informed about it, using that perspective to guide you in research. We know that we look at the individual, we look at the family, we look at the community. We are looking at intervention programs of all sorts, but we're also looking at that broader level, which we talked about today at lunch with Johnny, the policy level. Because we know that you change people's behavior by changing policy. Many of you know the Bronfenbrenner model, and this fits very, very nicely with what the NIVIT group are doing here. The child is at the center, the individual person is at the center of this context. And some of us in research have focused on this microsystem, the family, the school, that sort of thing. And that's what we psychologists do. But we have to look outside of psychology to social work, to political science, to economics. We have to look beyond that because there is a bigger world there. The exosystem of the neighbors, the legal services, the microsystem of the attitudes and thoughts and beliefs of that culture. And the interesting thing is all of this changes across time. As you see, the chronosystem is changing, but the child is also changing. We never, ever have the movie. We always have a snapshot when we are looking at children's behavior in research studies. So we need to know what that movie is going to be and how all of these things in these circles change. Some of you also are aware of the Super and Harkness model talking about the developmental niche. The developmental niche is really talking about sort of interlocking systems. This comes from the biological, ecological niche, which you may remember from your early schooling. But these systems interlock for children, the physical and social setting, the customs and practices of child care, and the caretakers' child psychology. What is it they plan to do? How do they think these behaviors are going to change? So all of these things promote the development of children in a positive way. If you look at NIVIT's major objectives, you can see how these are colored by what I was just presenting. To support context-informed research, to facilitate the capacity building of professionals. So trying to get more and more people to think from this perspective, to enhance the context-informed perspective, and to grow this into a training model so that these things are useful out there beyond the immediate reaches of the NIVIT group. And then to go nationally and internationally, to look for collaborations that will help enrich what's going on. Also to influence the formation of context-informed interventions and social policies. The vision is multidisciplinary and it's oriented toward training, which we hear in Israel is a word that's used in military training. We have it in the United States in organizational training. We seldom hear it as a word that's used about parent training, but we'll hear that later today. So we have to understand that the language is also important as we communicate about these things. We have a team of scholars that have come together from various disciplines, and you can see represented in this room that there are people with different interests, different backgrounds. But the notion here is to develop knowledge, to inform policy, to promote context-informed perspectives on children who are in need. And it's a very multicultural, international orientation. The greenhouse has started. The seeds have been planted. People are starting to connect. Research teams have already started carrying out the objectives, and you'll hear about some of those already today. Training programs are underway. Conferences and seminars are planned. You'll hear more about those. And the NIVIT team is reaching out to other universities and other locations to try to find people who share this focus, share this desire to try to help children in need and to do it in a way that's meaningful in that child's context. If you look at the earth, the natural greenhouse effect that we have, and I'm sure we've all heard about it, especially on a day like today, which is quite warm and unusually more spring-like than usual. The greenhouse effect does make life possible as we know it. But the NIVIT greenhouse is also nurturing the beginnings of a context-informed way to work on improving the lives of children who happen to be in need. So this is the mission, and you'll be hearing more about what is going on